good evening, everybody. It is Sunday, May 4th, and you kind of know what that means. It is time for the High Risk Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, celebrating that good old naked birthday on tomorrow. Jeremy Pierce, welcome one and all. Check out the socials, Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube, Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram, and of course the 215 on Twitter. And today's show, failed factions. We're not really gonna do what I usually do with the whole faction warfare thing, but we're just going to talk about why a faction would fail and ultimately what it comes down to. But for now, you know what's next, so just go on and hit my music. It has been a minute since I have done an episode list, and I feel like I've done this recently, this specific list, but these are the best factions. Today we start number 5, The System. At one point they were number 1, but they are still the top faction in TNA. Moose is your current X Division champion, flanked by Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, JDC, and Alicia Edwards. They still kind of run TNA, hoping to get the championships that they lost back in their grasp. Number 4, the Don Callis family. Every time they get hurt, they find a way to recover, and now with the additions of Rocky Romero and Josh Alexander, the Don Callis family is thriving. Konosuke Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Brian Cage, Lance Archer, Rocky Romero, Trent, Josh Alexander. Man, they really should be dominating AEW just a little bit more. Number 3, the Judgment Day. Yes, they are falling on hard times, but they have the current Intercontinental Champion. They have the current Women's Tag Team Champions, and even though he is now known as Finn Balor is still a force to be reckoned with, and JD McDonough has returned. The Judgment Day have pretty much been at the forefront of Monday Night Raw for the last couple of years, and yes, they will probably be splitting up sooner rather than later, but they are still a top group. Number 2, the Death Riders. They were probably number 1 at one point, but you can see the walls closing in. People are finally starting to stand up to them, but they are still ultimately bad asses. John Moxley is your world champion, protected by Marina Shafir. Then you have Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac. This group has been putting hits out left and right in AEW. We will see if they ultimately get their comeuppance at number 1, the Ops. This group came together kind of by happenstance, going all the way back to Samoa Joe mentoring Hook, adding Kazuchika Shibata, and then with Hook being injured, adding Powerhouse Hobbs, and now they are the current trios champions in AEW. They are a force to be reckoned with, and like Samoa Joe has said, they only need a reason and an opportunity to commit violence. We'll be right back. Who can stop the machine? Brian Cage. Well, apparently it's injuries, because every time this man is on a roll, he gets injured, and I really thought they AEW found something for him, putting in the tag team with Lance Archer, becoming the Murder Machines, and they were inevitably going to get a tag team title shot against the Hurt Syndicate, something I was very much looking forward to. Brian Cage has everything. Occasionally, yes, he can be a little bland, but the look, the moves, it just kind of works for him. And then there's always something pushing back, holding him back, whether that's the start-stop booking, whether that's him getting injured. But Brian Cage is a top talent. He was a top talent in TNA. He can definitely become a top talent in AEW. And I really, truly believe that a lot of the small issues that AEW has can be fixed by getting Ring of Honor a potential home and a consistent show, because there are a lot of people that can benefit from that happening, essentially becoming their version of NXT. But Brian Cage is a guy that if he actually won the world championship, it wouldn't shock me, especially if he won the Ring of Honor world championship, because everything is there for him to be a top talent in this business. Once he gets healed, once he gets back, especially back with the Don Callis family, I'm looking for bigger and brighter and better things for the Machine, Brian Cage. We'll be right back. Factions. We talk about them from time to time on this channel with the Faction Warfare series, but today I just want to talk about the failures of factions. Factions should inherently never fail. They have goals that they set out to accomplish, and surprisingly, a lot of factions fail. Now, I want to say this right now. Failure in professional wrestling a lot of times will come to the head booker who's in charge, because I wholeheartedly believe in the phrase that you are only as good as you are booked, right? So how you book the faction, how you book everything around the faction, the story and the matches, so on and so forth, that matters. All right. So first, the beauty of factions. Factions are a great way to get a group of people together who inherently aren't being used, or who you want to get more TV time to without clogging up the show. By putting someone in a faction, you essentially keep them on your screen. You keep them in the forefront of things, right? And when a faction shows up, it's usually the entire group. So now you're invested in every single person. Factions come and go, or stables, however you want to call them, they are part of in professional wrestling. I showed you earlier that there are some top factions currently, and I missed a bunch that could probably have been on that list. You know what I mean? So factions are a beautiful, wonderful thing, and there's usually a setup, a standard setup for a faction, right? It's usually comprised of 3 to 4 people, sometimes more, and it goes like this. There's always a leader, right? And that leader is usually the world champion person. Okay, they're the ones that bring the group together, or sometimes it's even a manager that brings the group together. Okay, so you have the leader, then you have the second in command. They are usually the mid-card champion. They are the ones that back up the leader, and like sometimes to get to the leader, you got to get through the second in command. Then you have a tag team, right? And that tag team, they do a lot of the heavy lifting. Okay, occasionally you'll get a woman in the group, which is a beautiful thing, because I wish we had more women in factions, and that's kind of why I like the Death Riders. That's why I liked the Conglomeration. But yeah, and then sometimes you'll have a manager. Managers back in the day were very, very, very prevalent, and now not so much, but we still have a few that are definitely, really holding things down, like Luther, like the Concierge, like Stokely Hathaway, even Scarlett. But that's how the grouping is usually broke down: leader, second command, tag team, sometimes a woman, sometimes a manager. A prime example of this would be Evolution. Triple H was the leader, Randy Orton was the second in command. You had a tag team of Ric Flair and Batista. If you want to expound on things, we have the System over in TNA. You have Moose, you have Eddie Edwards, you have JDC, you have Brian Myers, you have Alicia, Edwards. It's a group that works. Now, there are times where you just have a bunch of people come together and they really don't hold to this standard setup, like the conglomeration. This was a bunch of dudes that like conglomerating. I mean, you had Mark Briscoe, Kyle Fletcher, Orange Cassidy, Ishii, Willow Nightingale. No one's above the other. There's a bunch of dudes that like conglomerating. So how about some recent successes of, factions? We have the Judgment Day, starting with the original lineup of Edge, Rhea Ripley, and Damian Priest, and then Finn Balor, and then the evolution to the modern Judgment Day with Finn, Damian Priest, Rhea, Dom, and move forward to the current iteration with Finn, Dom, Liv, Raquel, Carlito, and JD McDonough. So factions, as you can see, can evolve. Look no further than the NWO. Lord, the NWO, my God. But the Judgment Day have had world champions in the group, tag team champions in the group, mid-card champions in the group, women's champions in the group, and never truly a leader, but there was always a fight for leadership between Finn, Priest, and Liv. I would probably say right now the current leader is probably Liv Morgan. And you got the Hurt Syndicate. We hurt people. We hurt people. We hurt people. We hurt people. Yeah. It is just three dudes: MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Bobby Lashley, with Lashley and Shelton doing a lot of the heavy lifting. MVP's more so the manager, occasional wrestler at this point. And it just works. It really, really works for them. They are your current tag team champions, and it's just good. I mean, not MVP. MJF is literally trying to get into the group because he just wants a championship match, but it shows you how popular the Hurt Syndicate is. Then you have the System. These guys have been running TNA for a long time now. Like we said in the list, Moose, Alicia Edwards, Eddie Edwards, Brian Myers, and JDC. They're just like the cream of the crop of TNA, always on top, got their hands in multiple pots, going through multiple stories with multiple people in TNA. They are a success. And then you have Damage Control. I know there's been some releases recently, but just starting with Bailey, bringing in Io and Dakota, and then adding Asuka and Kairi, they are forced to be reckoned with. And then when they got split up, Bailey leaving, they were still a great group. And even when Asuka and Kairi Sane return, so that the group is Kairi, Asuka, and Io, I still expect them to be dominant. I really do. But then we have to move over to the failed faction, what we're really truly here to talk about. And I'm gonna keep it kind of recent, within the last couple of years, okay? And there's factions from each company. You know what I mean? So we'll start with the Pinnacle over in AEW. So the Pinnacle should have been successful, and for some reason they just didn't work. MJF, FTR, Wardlow, Stokely Hathaway. It should have worked. The crazy thing is MJF has been in 2 failed factions. I'm also forgetting about Sean Spears. So this group had a lot. Tully Blanchard was there. This group should have worked, and somehow, some way, they just failed. They were only together for 1 year, and they had all of the makings to really do great things. The other group that MJF was a part of was the Firm. This was the grouping with Stokely Hathaway. It was him and Stokely working together with MJF returning in the Casino ladder match to earn that shot to become world champion. And he also had Lee Moriarty in the group, and the Guns, and Ethan Page. and somehow that didn't work. And they were supposed to be MJF's support system, and like I said, it didn't work. And MJF has shown that he works better by himself, with the exception of being in the Inner Circle, because that was great. Inner Circle was another. Jericho just knows how to make good factions. Inner Circle and the Jericho Appreciation Society, but MJF with the Firm, MJF with the Pinnacle, top talent in both of those groups, and somehow, some way, it just didn't come together for him, and that's kind of a bummer, because factions usually do really, really well in AEW, and they tried 2 times with MJF as a leader, and it did not work. Then you have the Final Testament over in the WWE. So yes, Karrion Kross has been kind of milquetoast, but recently he's gotten much, much better. So Karrion Kross is here. They bring Karrion Kross back in Scarlet. Then they bring in AOP back. And I'm like, okay, maybe they'll get it right this time around. And they did not get it right this time around, because, well, AOP and it's not Tully Blanchard, it's Ellering. I can't remember his first name. Got released. Yes, they had a match at WrestleMania 40, facing the Pride, which is another just failed group. Bobby Lashley with the Street Profits. Hell, we'll talk about them too. So the Pride and the Final Testament, I don't know. It should have been a good feud to work, and somehow, some way, they to be failed on this. But they failed with the Pride because they tried making them heels, and nobody wanted to boo Lashley and the Street Profits. Yes, we wanted the Street Profits to be more aggressive, but it just wasn't clicking. And now with this new aggression they have now, it works. The Final Testament should have worked as well, because you need a secondary heel group. I'd be remiss not to mention the Hurt Business as a successful faction, because we see the Hurt Syndicate in AEW, but the Hurt Business during the pandemic were one of the big bright spots of professional wrestling. MVP, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander, when he was actually being used, were great, and they didn't fail because of them. They failed because of Vince McMahon. So then you have the LWO, the WWE version, and yes, they're popular. Yes, they're always on TV. They don't win matches. That's how I feel about Shane Taylor Promotions. It's a great group. They don't win matches on the main show. LWO, Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wild, and I can't remember the other, Cruz del Toro, and at one point Zelina Vega. Great group. They had a major showing at Backlash when it was in Puerto Rico, but yet they never won Tag Team Gold. They were always made to look good, but they were always made to lose matches. And now with Ray being hurt, who's stepping up as a leader? Zelina Vega is now on Raw she's on SmackDown for some reason, but she's the current Women's United States Champion. But why would you separate her from the group? Why not just move the entire group over to SmackDown? Then you have Legado del Fantasma, another group that's solid, because Santos Escobar is great. Humberto and Angel Garza, great. And then at one point, Elektra Lopez was in the group, and she got released, and they just didn't win matches. We become so accustomed to the WWE doing 50-50 booking that we assumed just at some point people were going to get wins, people were going to get W's, and that just didn't happen. It didn't happen with the LWO. It didn't happen with Legado del Fantasma, and that sucks, because WWE has been trying their damnedest to get new Mexican stars, new Hispanic stars, and they might have finally done it with Penta and Phoenix, but it took them bringing in 2 people from the outside to make that work when you already had a lot of Latin stars already in your company. How about the Mogul Embassy? As much as I love Swerve Strickland, the Mogul Embassy did not work. Wow. Like, we knew what they were going for, to push Swerve, to make him really really pop, but not the Mogul Embassy that was made by Prince Nana, going all the way back to the early days of Ring of Honor, but the recent Mogul Embassy with Swerve Strickland, Bishop Khan, and Tal Leona of the Gates of Agony. Who else was in that group? AR Fox, Jimmy Rave, rest in peace. But AR Fox, Swerve, Tal Leona, Brian Cage, Bishop Khan. It just it didn't work. And we're not even going to get into the other embassy group that had Parker Bardell and Trench or Tretch or whatever his name is. That was just horrible. But this last iteration of Mogul Embassy didn't work because, well, Swerve just got really good, and Tony Khan couldn't figure out a way to get the other guys to be as good and as popular as Swerve. I mean, he outshone Brian Cage, he outshowed the Gates of Agony, and yeah, like, here we are. And the group will always have a beautiful place in the history of professional wrestling. I mean, look at the people that were in this group. Prince Nana, the leader of the group who created it, Xavier, Jade Chung, Alex Shelley, Abyss, Daisy Hayes, Claudio Castagnoli, who else? Joey Ryan, Eric Stevens, Sean Davari, Nico Butcher, R.D. Evans, Tommaso Ciampa, Rhino for a brief spell, Jonathan Gresham, rest in peace, Jimmy Rave. So, like, yeah, this was a great group, and we still have part-timers and Adam Pearce and Angel Williams and Dave Taylor, Moose, really, wow, Petey Williams, Puma, Ricky Morton, Spanky, and Vita Scott. Like, there was so much going on with the old Mogul Embassy that it was hard for them to fail, and they ultimately failed. How about Retribution? Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. The pandemic was a weird time, and this mysterious group, kind of like what the Dark States are now, were causing havoc in WWE, and they were called Retribution. And you feel with groups like this because they shouldn't be under contract, and yet they ended up in the draft, and they ultimately fell. Who was Retribution? Mustafa Ali was the leader. You had Dominic Dijakovic, Shane Thorne, Mia Yim, at one point Mercedes Martinez, Mace. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. That might be everybody. And they just like caused havoc and fun times going against the Hurt Business, because it was dope and you needed something exciting, be excited for during the pandemic. But the follow-up was never going to be as good as what started. Go back just a little bit. I don't want to go all the way back, but Immortal in TNA didn't work because Jeff Hardy could not be a heel. Jeff Hardy could not be a heel. Why would you ever want to boo Jeff Hardy? Immortal was supposed to be their TNA's new version of the Four Horsemen, and it didn't work. It just didn't, because once again, Jeff Hardy can't be a heel. It sucks when you have these great teams and they ultimately fail. It sucks when you have a vision and you cannot follow through with it. Factions are here. They're not going anywhere. We just got to figure out a way to make sure they stay successful. But that is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Look on the screen what we got coming up. Check out the socials. Charismatic Creations on Facebook and YouTube. Charismatic_Creations52 on Instagram. And of course, the 215 on Twitter. And as always, Anna J, Chris Statlander, Willow Nightingale, Gigi Dolan, Isla Dawn, and Bailey. Holla at your boy. Peace.